Lee Goldstein and myself, Eric Roth. We're today's focus on the podcast. And what's the difference between a podcast and a webinar? Because the kind of, your webinar, this is unscripted, right? So as you can see, Lee and I are just going to have a conversation today with the focus on earnings, and earnings season is here. In fact, Lee, we actually have our first earning report later this week, which I'm going to have Lee talk about. And before I even do that, I want to tell you guys my own experience with trading earnings. So first of all, if you're a trader, whether you're stock trader, option trader, or most of our group are futures traders, you probably know that when it comes to earnings, it's usually the option traders that like to trade earnings, and I'll tell you why. We usually, when some of the one of the strategies for option traders, right? Not saying that this is the best one, but putting a naked call or a naked put. Sometimes they'll have stocks, for example, right now, the FANG stocks that are coming out, Netflix, Microsoft, right? When you buy an option on these stocks, one of the strategies is, you do all your homework and you think that, Netflix is going to blow it out of the waters. And so you buy either a call or put, right? And when the earnings come out, it could really help get that option to the strike price, right? So I might be talking a little bit, outside your lingo if you're not sure what the strike price is. Bottom line is that if you're familiar with what we do at 10-minute trades, one of the three pillars that could cause something to break out, we talk about high economic news reports, right? We talk about the opening of when sometimes the markets open and closing, and then the third pillar are earning reports. So my experience, and that's what I wanted to share with you, is when I was still in college, I had a good buddy of mine. His name is Mark, and this guy is what, when I think about like how did I even get to trading, sometimes I even forget that that's part of the story, is that I had my friend Mark. Him and I were both, believe it or not, we were in upstate New York. I went to school, Binghamton University. And would you believe it, I meet this kid in the computer library, right? So in the library, the computer part, and such a small world that both him and I had girlfriends that were living literally 10 minutes away from each other up in Montreal, Canada, okay? They weren't even living in Montreal, they were living both in Laval. So just a quick, it's just a small world. So I meet this guy in the library, and we both actually end up later getting married, to our girlfriend. So that's just an aside. But the point is that Mark is he introduced me to trading options with earnings, and he's somebody that call it very risky, whatever. But he's had success where he's put $1,000 bets on certain stocks and turn it into 15, 20, 30,000. So sounds very exciting. Still good friends with Mark, right? And quite a story. But you want to know something? I didn't have much success and the reason why is because I only took one or two of Mark's picks, and I was totally dependent on whatever he wanted to do. You know what I mean? I wasn't intelligent where I was looking to see and actually these are the two stocks that I have experience trading with, Lululemon and Bank of America. So my experience was I basically just let him, he either told me what bets he was making, and I use the word bets because that's the way I look at the way that we were trading, right? We were doing naked calls, naked puts with options and looking for, a home run. I did have some success, but overall, I remember my last trade was with Bank of America. I remember dumping close to almost $3,000 as it got closer to the earnings report, just hoping that the earnings report would be what we wanted. And guess what? If it's not what you wanted, let's say you had, in my case, a call that they are gonna, do really well, and then they had a poor performance. That's it. Whatever investment you made, right? That's what a naked call or put is. There's no like leverage. It's either you make money or you don't make money. So that's my personal experience with trading options. And so now I'm gonna segue into I'm gonna bring in Lee to the picture. But as you can see here, and actually, Mark, do me a favor and run G2. Can you guys see my earnings season is here slide? Thank you very much. Okay, awesome, Mark. Appreciate it. So I told you the frustration that I had personally with earnings, right? And trust me, you know, when your buddy is making 10, 20, $30,000 in college, you know, because, you know, he's a smart guy, you know, he's always watching CNBC or reading the Wall Street Journal, like really having a good understanding and why he thinks a stock will do what it does, right? So we never dabbled with earnings with what we do here at 10-minute trades. And as you can see, earnings season is here. Our first trade that we're going to take is this Thursday on Netflix. And then we have Microsoft next week. And then we have Tesla, Intel, Apple. So we have a lot of great FANG stocks, which we now are able to take advantage of. And to tell that story a little bit, I'm going to bring on Lee. So Lee, you still there with us?
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Can you?
Yes, I can.
Okay, as long as everybody else can.
Yeah, actually, good point. Okay, they can hear you, Chantal saying yes. So Lee, I know I don't have your visual up. I have a graphic of you up. I'm still learning how to use both screens. But Lee, when you first came on, right, and you've been here 5 years now, let's go back to the thought process of like, how do we trade earnings, you know, with futures? Like, tell me about like what was going through your mind and what was step one?
Okay, so very honestly, it was a total accident. We were trading a completely different news event. I was trading, we had an end of the day NQ trade that we used to do when it was working. And we happened to do it pretty much every day. So I noticed during earnings season, we were getting these huge moves in the NQ. And at first, people had no idea why. You know, we weren't really paying attention to earnings in those days because we didn't trade them. And then, of course, we realized the NQ movement was due to earnings. And then it was a much more complicated process because our software wasn't set up in any way that we could take advantage of it, because the breakout type style trade is not great for earnings because there isn't a centralized exact release time for earnings. But make a long story short, we noticed movement in the NQ, tied it into earnings, and then we took, you know, the better part of probably 6 months updating the software so that we could put it in a mode that it would be able to be trade earnings and also maintain its ATM strategies, so that when we put a trade on, we would have stops, targets, and safety rather than just putting a random trade on with no protection. So it started by accident, is the truth.
Gotcha. And and so just so that and we want to make sure that you know, as part of this podcast, that you know, everyone that's listening in could take away some ideas. And I'm not saying that that's like, wow, that's such an out of box idea, but you know what? What I took away is that when you trade stocks and or options, as I was talking about, right? You know, if you want to take, you know, if you, in this case, Netflix, right? We know we could trade Netflix with options, and that's how we're going to be able to take advantage of the earning report. But what Lee's talking about with futures, we don't have that, right? There's no Netflix future contract that we could trade. And Lee, you could always keep me honest here. So one of the strategies, right? That's number one, is what index do we trade? So now you know, right? For all of these FANG stocks that we just talked about, the index that we're going to try to use to be able to profit from is the NQ, which is the NASDAQ futures. Is that right, Lee?
When I answer, because I have to turn my audio off so you don't.
Okay, gotcha. No
Okay,
worries.
but yes, we're using the NQ futures as a proxy for the
Okay.
earnings trades.
Okay. Now, many of our listeners are probably familiar with our, you know, bread and butter breakout strategy, right? So, and if you're not familiar, you know, essentially one of the core pillars, what we do with appointment-based trading is that we know that there's different economic news reports that are coming out each week, and we have a very simple methodology of being able to bracket before a trade, before an actual, what we call a daily market mover takes off, right? So the example I always like to use whether I'm talking to a cab driver, a neighbor, someone's asking me, Eric, explain how it works. I always like to talk about the weekly crude oil inventory report, right? Crude oil is at a certain price. We know on Wednesday, 10:30, the report's coming out, and a couple of seconds before the economic news report is released, we set up our brackets, right? We're not fortune tellers, right? Unlike Mark, he wasn't a fortune teller, but the strategy that he was taking with the options was doing his due diligence and having a good feeling that, you know what, Bank of America or Lululemon, I think they're going to blow it out of the water, right? Again, it's still guesswork, but he's doing homework and he's figuring out, I think it's going to go in this direction, right? In our case, oh, I think you're sharing your screen now, right, Lee?
Screen there.
Oh, perfect. I'm not sure if folks could see your slide, but it's, guys, no? Okay, they probably,
Go to webinar, YouTube.
okay, that's okay. Okay, no. So what are you seeing, Ranjit, right now? I apologize, because
I'm seeing our
picture, our picture.
yeah, our pictures and the software.
Okay. Oh, you're seeing that screen. Okay, I got you. Okay. Okay. So Lee, unfortunately,
I'm trying to unshare my screen. I can't.
don't worry. I'll share my screen again. Don't worry about it. Actually, yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Well, anyways, guys, to keep it simple, I'm just going to share my slide deck for the rest of the presentation. Okay, so you guys could see the avatar of me and Lee, right? So don't worry, Lee. I'll pass it back to you later. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. For now, though, I'm gonna. You want oh, yeah, yeah, give it a second. Give it a second. Because the point that I was trying to make, and forgive me, guys, is that I was explaining basically how our appointment-based trading methodology works, right? And we were talking about how Lee with the NQ, right? And how we're approaching earnings, it's similar where we're now, we don't have a stock that we're going to trade, but we know that we don't know whether Netflix is going to do well or not do well, right? But similarly to how we do appointment-based trading, we know that what we do care is that whatever the experts are predicting, right, earnings per share, et cetera, that it's different, right, that it doesn't match. So that we're able to use the same principles as our appointment-based methodology for how we do our daily market movers for earnings, right? And so that's at a high level. So are you with me so far? I want to make sure I'm looking at the questions too. So I see Ranjit, Larry, Ronald. I want to make sure I'm not losing anybody. So high level, what we're doing with earnings is similar to how we trade our other DMMs, but we're using the NASDAQ futures. And then as Lee, once I let Lee take over and screen share a little bit, you're going to see that it's not exactly the right way. It's not exactly the same way, right? And there's actually something that he actually, I'm going to give you. I know it's you, Lee, but I don't know if you invented the one-click range trade. Okay, so let me go ahead, Lee. Let me show you some examples. I think that might be great. Okay, so I'm going to go into GoToWebinar and I'll let you take over. 1 second, okay? Change presenter.
If you right click on my name, you can make me an organizer and that'll solve the problem. Yep.
You got it.
Let's see if that works. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, you should now see our team screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing I was showing before, you were explaining a bracket. Can you see the bracket screen? Let me give it a second because YouTube's delayed. Okay, good, it's working. Okay, so you were explaining what our software does just from our normal trades. We put a bracket above and below the current price. The X is above, the other X is below. And we're taking a very similar concept with the way that we're trading earnings. Not quite the same, because the problem with earnings is, like I said, they don't have an exact release time. So we needed a way to put our orders on the screen in such a way that we would be able to manipulate the orders, keep them away from current prices until the earnings come out, and then we get pulled into a trade. So for instance, this is what the market might look like right before Netflix earnings are coming out. So it's 4 o'clock, the market's closing, and what you're seeing on the left, and that's the screen you want to watch, is you're seeing post-market volatility from the close. But we know from experience that Netflix is going to release their earnings. It could be within the next 20 seconds. So it's challenging. We want to put our orders on the screen, but if we put them too close, see, I've got to put them far enough away from the current volatility of the close, but I've got to manipulate them close enough so when Netflix comes out, I'm going to get pulled into the trade. So that's the goal. That's the perfect trade. So let's see what happened. This was October. Okay, so this was October 19th. Couple of things that are going on. So I get pulled into the Netflix trade. On the right side, I'm using a multi-broker platform with Ninjatrader. So I'm actually looking at the stock price with my Ninjatrader platform, and that stock price is coming in from another broker. And that allows me to hopefully figure out when the earnings are released. This particular day, we got pulled into a long trade, and I know what happened. I had my settings incorrect on the right chart, and I wasn't seeing the Netflix pricing after 4 p.m. Didn't matter, because we have a setup that if there is a good move and it moves in one direction, just like a normal breakout trade, we're going to get pulled into the trade, and that's exactly what happened. And here I'm bringing in a different broker chart, which I also use, and I'm seeing that Netflix exploded to the upside. It's reflected in the NQ, and that gave us a profit on that trade. So is that clear? You can hear everything I'm saying, Eric?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So that was the concept. And, I was using the actual Netflix pricing off on another monitor. Sometimes I can't show everything on the same monitor because I need to see the trading charts. But
yeah.
what we did is we modified the software so that instead of getting pulled into a trade immediately, I had the ability to manipulate the orders manually, but I still had all my stops, targets. If I wanted to do a little bit of trailing, I could do that as well.
So Lee, thanks for showing that. Scroll back the tape a little bit. Go back in the video to like before the breakout. Would you mind? Just
Nope. Okay.
Okay. And while you're doing that, I have a few questions for you, okay? Because I'm noticing right now, and this is actually a question that came from Larry. Thank you, Larry. I see that this trade from October 2021, this is what, Netflix, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So this trade, if you notice, the time was at 4 o'clock. Some of the trades that, again, the earnings, but the slide that I showed you about upcoming trades, Netflix on the 23:30 p.m., that is not in stone. With earnings, they could always change. But my question is, that was at 4 o'clock, and this is again from Larry. So why is it 3:30? Is that is that the actual start time of the trade room? Is that what that's what it is? Okay. Okay. Yes. And Chantal answered too. Yeah, so that's the reason why the 6 trades, which I'll show you again, the earnings, they're all 30 minutes ahead of when they're going to be released, just like we do for our other trade rooms. Thanks. All right. So let me do this. So right now you see there's like plus 30. There's 3 contracts that you're buying and then 3 that you're selling. Explain to people again the high level. How did we even get to this bracket, right? Like, what's the science? What's the one-click? How did it deduce the setup over here? What's going on behind the scenes to get to this You know, like why didn't we set up the, you know, buy 100 ticks above? What is it that we're using? What are the parameters?
Okay, so it's a really good question. If you go back, what's funny is if we went back to charts from 2 years ago, it would look completely different. Um, it all is dependent upon finding tools. So look, we knew that there was going to be a move. We know we don't want to be 100 ticks away because that will eat up all the profit. So if this is going to succeed in any way, we have to create some sort of a range with candles or a zone or something. You have to choose some sort of a range that you have a high and a low to work with. In other words, so I'm using X number of bars to look back. And I could have used a range also of time, or I could have used a zone-based range. But generally, I'm using candles, and I'm using a range of candles that I could find a high and a low uh, value. And it really just comes from looking at years of earnings trades and trying to figure out what's a safe distance, what's a distance that'll give us a profit. And it's not a science, you know, it's experience, and it can change because the quality of the move could change. It might not be as big a miss in the earnings, so it may not be as big a move. So your bracket, if your bracket's too big, you won't make as much. But there's just a certain limit. I'm not going to put my orders on 2 ticks away from the current price because that will fill me before the news comes out. So you have to be far enough away from the price so you don't get filled before the earnings are released. That's the concept.
Right. And no, thank you, Lee. So one of the tools, and again, I know, and I'm going to talk to everyone about a workshop that you just did on trading earnings this past Friday. We had about 50 members, and I'm going to share this with everyone in a second. But just tell me, one of the tools is the one-click range trade. So the buy and stop right there. It's calculating what? It's calculating the average, the bar. Can you explain that a little bit? The one-click range trade, how it got to the setup here, the bars.
Away the setup because I don't want to give away the setup.
Okay.
Basically, very simply, if I use, let's say I just use a 1 bar look back, then it's going to put my orders X amount of ticks above that bar, X amount of ticks below that bar. So I look back a certain number of bars, and that's not in stone either. I just want to look back far enough so that, again, I'm not placing my orders right on top of the current price.
Right.
So, but you have a variety of different ways in the software that you can calculate where you want to put your orders. It's not just one method. You could use bars, you could use a zone, you could use time.
Wow. I'm asking it, in full disclosure for everybody, it's like, I'm the moderator here, but I'm actually the student. I don't pretend that I know what I don't know. And this is something that, again, that Lee innovated. And basically now I understand that, with the one-click range change update in our software, basically there are a couple of mechanisms that we could use, not just time like we normally do. There are a couple of things that help us, and this is the tools that we have in our tool belt as to what is a clever bracket. It's not just willy-nilly 10 ticks above and below. It's a little bit more sophisticated than that, and it's using a couple of I'll call them trend tools, but basically it's a couple of things. Can you just give an example? What are they called? Bar analysis? What are they called, these things?
I'm using bars, so I'm just using candle analysis, the distance of price and candle, the high of a candle and the low of candles. That's what I'm using for a range.
Okay, so play this Netflix trade out one more time. I'm gonna see if I can moderate it one more time. So let's do a recap because now, okay, so here we go. Tell me what's going on.
Okay, so my orders were put on the chart. That's the first thing that took place. And let me press play. So now I'm just moving myself away, and I'm thinking to myself, when is Netflix going to actually release their earnings? I don't really know.
What do you pause right there again? Do you mind? Pause right there. So what are you listening to behind the scenes to know?
Okay. Well, so that's the other thing, all the tools and then the process. I'm listening to a Squawk Box. I'm
Okay.
listening to the TV, believe it or not, which I don't expect to be able to really help me other than if I don't see a move from the earnings, TV will tell me the earnings came out, but television, a news channel will never report the news fast enough to help you with a trade. So I'm
So,
listening to, CNBC, or I'm listening to Bloomberg, or I'm listening
right.
to Financial Juice Pro. I'm watching broker charts, but it's not that complicated. I mean,
Okay.
this is all on another monitor, and it's like after you practice a little bit, it becomes second nature. But ultimately, I don't have to look at anything. When we first started doing earnings, I didn't look at anything except the NQ and our charts because I had no tools. I didn't know what the available tools were, and we were just winging it and not risking a lot of money and having fun with it. And probably, sometimes because things go in cycles, you could get great trades, have no tools and make money. You could have all the tools in the world, and if the results whipsaw the price, doesn't matter. You're not going to make money. But ultimately, the tools will help you know the second the earnings come out, and that helps you manage your trade if you're still in it.
So right here, you're 18 seconds after 4 o'clock when you're anticipating the news come out.
Correct.
And I'm gonna let you play out the video in 1 second, but just tell me this, like when would you have canceled this trade? Like earnings, are they always on time? Like could this run out for another 2 minutes or never more than like 30 seconds?
It could go another 3 minutes or 4 minutes,
Really?
or it could come out in 10 seconds.
Wow. Okay, so
And
let's play.
another company could release their earnings. And if it's an impactful company, like if you have Facebook and Amazon the same day, you got to be really careful and maybe not even trade them.
Yeah, no, that this is great insight. So for the folks, for all of our, YouTube live, fans, subscribers, this isn't something that you just willy-nilly go after. This is something that you want to be very careful of, because this is, not to say that this is risky, you know what I mean? But it is. You have to be very careful. So go ahead, let's play the video. Let's play the video out and see how you did over here, okay?
Honestly, the thing that I always talk about in the room is you
Yes.
wouldn't you wouldn't get behind a you wouldn't get into a tractor trailer and start driving it in 1 second. You'd practice a little bit. And
Right.
this is no different than, you practice the technique using playback replay in NinjaTrader. You could test last quarter's earnings so that it's not a total surprise. That's the way you protect yourself from risk.
Absolutely. So I see you moving. So I see like, okay, so I see you're just trying to keep it balanced. See how the market price is moving up? You're kind of keeping both of them balanced now, correct?
Exactly. And I screwed up that day because my Netflix chart's frozen on the right. So I didn't know when the earnings were out.
Wow.
But I did know I did have it open on my other monitor. So I was watching my other broker. So I wasn't totally blind. I
You
wasn't
see what
flying
Lee's,
blind.
you guys see what Lee is doing? He's kind of, even though we have sophistication and when the brackets should be, but now we're still waiting. What are we anticipating? We're waiting for it to break out. And okay, pause right there. So what happened there? And by the way, Lee, let me just time out for a second. Was this? I see Sim here. Was this an actual live trade or no? Okay. Well, after this, so this is we always like to keep things real. So this is a Sim trade. After this, can you think you could pull up a live trade for us after this? Okay, no worries.
I couldn't trade live that week. We were changing our accounts. I have live trades I can show in a minute.
Okay, but basically, how would you if you just scroll back like 10 seconds, right? Like, what do we like? How do we know the news comes out? Let's say you're in the blind, right? We're anticipating a huge burst, right? So what happened here? The news broke out. Like, can you tell from that candle behavior that the news broke?
Absolutely. In fact, I was late and I was way too conservative that day. And I was too far. I was moving away from the trade when I should have been moving into it, which is not abnormal with earnings. And it was still such a big move. I pulled back and it filled me. And then it's going to hit my first target. I moved my stop to safety, hit my second target. And now it's going to probably, it's going to keep, let's see if it keeps going.
So you're
I think I,
protecting.
yeah, I brought my price down a little bit and got out.
Yeah. Pause for a second. See, what's cool is that even on sim, and this is good practice for everybody. You see, it wasn't okay. So it's a sim trade, right? This was a sim trade. Lee didn't just lay back there, right? And like, oh, let me just see how much. Let's see if I can make 2,000 bucks. This is a good insight. Even our own trading director, that when you're trading on sim, now it's impossible, but you have to treat it the same way as if you were live, right? Because if Lee didn't care, right? Why is he chasing to get out? It's sim, right? Just let it roll. No, he's trading it to get even better. And I'm speaking for you, Lee. So I'm really speaking for myself too, because that's what I do behind the scenes. Nobody cares if you could have made another $300 in simulation. The idea is to practice, and what we're talking about is being comfortable with the movements. Do I want to stay in longer? I see there's profit. How would I do this if there was 30 contracts on the board? You guys with me? So do you agree with that, or am I speaking for you, or how would you assess it?
I agree 100%. So we had two things going on. A, I was teaching about how to do it. B, I was trading it. And I say 1,000 times a week, trade in sim the way you would trade in real life. Otherwise, you're never going to learn to trade. I don't throw extra contracts on in sim, and I traded it exactly as if I was trading it live, and as close as I could, given the fact you're not nervous when you're trading sim. But it's absolutely the right way to use sim. Otherwise, why bother?
Right. All right, so I hope, like I know in the beginning, and now we really got into it, but I think this is an awesome example of an actual earnings trade, which like Lee said, this is Sim, but he actually was still moderating live and was showing folks. Do you need a second? Do you think you could bring up another example of a live trade with real dollars on the line?
Right here.
Okay, so tell me about this trade that you're queuing up.
Okay, so this is Amazon, and this was last quarter, and I'm just bringing it to 4 o'clock. So this is what the market looked like, and I don't remember. I think this was a winner. I'm pretty sure. In fact, you know what? I can bring up. Here's the screenshot from the trade, so people can see. Amazon came out. It was a couple of minutes after 4, and it had quite a significant move to the downside, and we caught a little bit of it. You don't know how much you're going to be able to catch. I had pretty conservative targets, but it had a very nice move. So let's see what happened with the real trade. This was live, and you can see my chart from my broker is on the right, and my Ninjatrader chart's on the left. And I don't, Amazon is tricky. Sometimes they come out 401. I've seen them come out at 403. And I've never seen a place where I can find the exact release time every quarter. I just have never been able to find a place that tells us that. So I'm manipulating the orders just like I was doing in the previous trade on Netflix. Only difference is this is live. I'm also seeing live aftermarket pricing of the Amazon chart with that darker chart. So you can see I'm just staying away from the price, and I'm not guessing. I'm not trying to say, well, I think Amazon's going to be long or I think they're going to be short. There's no point in guessing. You might as well just throw a coin. It's a short. Now, something very interesting happened that day. Watch, the stock price was way ahead of the futures, which I've started to see that happen more often lately. So I had time to move my target up, and then I chickened out because it didn't move, but it still blasted through, hit all my targets, and gave me a profit anyway. It can be very nerve-wracking, even if you do this a lot, because look, nobody wants to lose money, but it was a good, strong move to the downside, and it was fast, and it took me out immediately.
So
So that's what happened in that trade.
awesome. Let me interject here, okay? And this is fantastic, by the way. And so in this replay that you're showing, first of all, this is a live trade, and I see you actually having that black chart, right? That's the stock price of Amazon. So is this one of the techniques of, do you always have a stock price of whatever trade that you're trading, or um, is this something new that you do, or because I think in the last one I don't remember seeing it for the Netflix one. Do you advise folks to have?
I change it up sometimes. The Netflix one, it was the stock price, but I was getting it through Ninjatrader. In other words, I was
Uh,
connecting, but it was still the stock, the actual stock price. This is using a different broker to get it more. It's a little bit more direct if you use an actual broker rather than an API that's taking data. It's going to slow things down maybe a millisecond or two.
right. So can you clarify what you were saying before, that you saw that Amazon in this case already was going down, right? Or you saw the price movement on the stock price first. So and then you said that's why I wanted to remove my profit target. Can you explain that a little bit better? So Amazon went down, correct? Is that it did poorly or what?
Know as well as I do that maybe they did great, but their guidance might have been terrible. So
Okay,
all we know is the stock price blasted down at the
it
moment
did.
earnings came out.
Okay, so let's
Not enough, there's not enough time to analyze why, right? Until
oh,
it's over.
right. But so let's say you see that Amazon went down, right? And you see that you're about to get in which where would you like most likely NQ is going to go what direction, right? I'm trying to explain to everyone how Amazon, the linkage.
NQ will normally follow the direction of the stock. So if you look at that left chart, Amazon is down, right? Let me just move it back a millisecond if I can. Right there. What's interesting is that NQ gave a heads up first, but it didn't fill us. And I'm just going to pull back. It's just an interesting event. That event was fascinating. First, it burst up, and then just a few seconds later, the NQ gave you a heads up before the stock price, but not enough to fill the trade. And then instantaneously when you see a candle like that, it's almost always the earnings. And it was down, so you can safely try to get your target closer to the order on the short side. And I
Awesome.
did that. And then I remember I got nervous because it didn't fill me immediately. So I just normalized rather than getting close. And it was such a good move, it filled me. It didn't matter, it filled me anyway, which is good. That's what we want. We want to get filled in an explosion. That's basically what we want to happen. I want to get pulled into the market. I want it to be over or close to over, in a nanosecond. That's the ultimate easy earnings trade. Sometimes just like a breakout trade, a regular GDP trade, you have to manage your way out of the trade. Also, that happens. You might hit the combine button using all the tools that we use in our regular breakout trades.
Awesome. No, Lee, that was fantastic. Did everyone enjoy that? Did you, I'd like to get some comments on YouTube, and also for those on a GoToWebinar. Um, can everyone now understand, at least at a high level, kind of the approach that we take? We went over one of the sim trades on Netflix, and then this is a live trade where you made, people can't really see it, but that's, if you put your cursor, that's $557. And that's pretty fantastic. So any questions? I think I want to just get some questions here. Now, one of the questions for you, Lee, again, thank you, Larry. A lot of the trades that we're trading are FANG stocks, right? FANG, right? So Facebook, Apple, Netflix, right? These are all tech stocks. We're
Right.
all on the NASDAQ, so we're trading the NQ. Hypothetically, if we were trading a stock on the New York Stock Exchange, have you explored like which index would we even trade for that if that was a
Eric, if
possibility?
somebody wanted to, it's a full-time job just to deal, it could be a full-time job just to deal with earnings and figuring out which stocks move what. Our software also, in theory, could be used on the direct stock price. So if somebody wanted to just use our software and spend a couple of whatever amount of time they needed to trade earnings with the exact stock price, that could be done also. But just because of the incredible amount of effort and time, we're doing it in a limited way, sort of like we do our schedule, our weekly schedule. Earnings, it could be a full-time trading routine, even though it's quarterly. There's a lot of stocks that move, and I'm sure, Goldman Sachs and some of the big banks are probably moving, maybe even the YM or the ES for earnings. So it's something that I'm exploring more as time goes on. But right now, I've been sticking with the ones that are moving the NQ, just really honestly because of time issues.
Okay. Well, listen, I know there's more to be said there, Larry, but I see some other questions. What I want to do now is I just want to recap, so this will answer your question, Michael. So to recap, basically, if you're just joining us, the high-level strategy of how we are able to trade futures, how we take advantage of earnings on trading futures, and specifically on the FANG stocks, right, is we trade the NQ. Right, and we went over basically how we, how do we even set up the, I'll still call it a bracket. And then, okay, let me just ask this question also. Francis is asking Lee, what is the trigger to enter into the trade? The Squawk Box starts talking about it, NQ candlestick or stock candlestick.
The only trigger is trade movement, price action.
Okay.
If you hear news, it's too late. If you heard the news on the radio, or even with the Squawk Box, even the Squawk Box will probably not be quick enough. It's going to be the price action that pulls into the trade.
Okay. So Lee, listen, I'm gonna actually take back, if you don't mind. Well, let's see. Can everyone see me now? 1 second. Oh, actually, no. You're still presenting, aren't you?
I have to give it to you.
Yes. Oh, here we go. So, okay. So Eric Roth here. So what I want to do is today we went over so far high level strategy of how we're able to take advantage of upcoming earnings, right? And I mentioned that we just had a workshop, and I want to show you guys an opportunity that you might be interested in. So let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. Okay. Let me just make sure it pops up. Okay. Okay. So we went over our high-level approach to trading earnings, right? And these are the upcoming earnings that are taking place. Now, remember, you can take a screenshot of this. Take a second if you want to take a picture of this. But just remember, and Lee, you can still hear me, right?
Yes.
As Lee mentioned, this is what it's at tentatively right now. And this is not, as somebody pointed out, 3:30 is the time that we're going to open up our trade room for Netflix. So any one of these, it's probably 30 minutes afterwards. So Netflix, the actual earnings report is probably going to come out on the 20th, Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, okay? And same for the rest. So we have 6 upcoming sessions. The first one this Thursday, Netflix, and then Microsoft, and as I mentioned before. So this past Friday, okay, Lee actually hosted a live trade earnings workshop. And, whether you're a 10-minute trade subscriber on our YouTube channel, there's a good chance you probably never even heard about this opportunity. And the reason why is because this is one of the classes that it was kind of a bonus that we did for a package in December. Okay, this was a $499 class. Okay, a master class on trading earnings. Okay, or what we like to call a trading earnings workshop. Okay, Lee just did this with 50 students. Okay, for $499 this past Friday. Okay, it was about 90 minutes, and that's what that's the value of this workshop, where everything we talked about today, very high level. Lee really gets into it, and he shows you the tools. He shows you how it works. And listen, there's no hiding behind it. I mean, one of the tools is our software. So if you're going to take advantage of this, obviously it makes sense to invest in the software if you don't have it already. But basically, in this 90-minute workshop, this is a class that Lee did this past Friday. And basically what you learn is what markets, which earnings we trade, the earnings tools we talked about at high level, the exact one-click range trade setup, the exact process that we take, okay? Lee talks about trade setups for different earnings, multiple trade setups, single contract ideas. So I know a lot of folks on the line may have a smaller account. Well, okay, well, what's a strategy for somebody that only has a, one contract? How do I practice a market replay? So all of these things were built into the trade earnings workshop. And like I said, we had over 50 folks, 50 people that took advantage. This is a $4.99 value class. So trade earnings season is here. And I know this is a podcast, okay? And I don't want to say forgive me, but for me, it's not about selling. It's showing you an opportunity. I want you to be able to make the $600 on Amazon. You with me? So that's why I'm, I think on all of our podcasts, we never did anything like this. But basically, here's the deal. Instead of $4.99, that was a live course. I'm going to give everybody, this is for members too, right? If you didn't take advantage of the bonus that had this workshop, which is our holiday package, then this is a course that you might be interested in. It's our trade earnings workshop. And basically how it's going to work is you go to www, I'll show you the website in a second, tradeearningsnow.com. And Chantal, if you want to write that, and Lee, if you want to write that in the chat as well for GoToWebinar and then YouTube. So if you go to www, it's very important that you put that in, .tradeearningsnow.com, you'll see there's an opportunity to get that workshop that Lee just did live. Again, people, $499 value, we had over 50 folks for just $47, okay? As soon as you, process your credit card, you're gonna get an email and you're gonna have access on demand to that 90-minute workshop so that you could prepare yourself for our first trade with Netflix, which is coming up this Thursday. So I think that's a pretty fair offer, right? Again, folks that had just, for $499, they were live, it was in person. You're going to be able to get it for just $47. But the thing is that it's not that I want to put a deadline on this, but here's the deal. The first earnings report is on Thursday. So that's why we're closing down this opportunity on Wednesday, at least for now, in terms of getting in. And you'll see why in a second, okay? So, and I see some more questions coming in, and I'll make sure to do a Q&A before we wrap up. So I went over for $47 what you get for the on-demand training earnings workshop. But hang on a second, okay? Because, watching, learning and education mode, that's all good stuff. But to really make the most out of this workshop, here's the idea. Wouldn't you like to trade behind, Lee's shoulder and watch him, trade Netflix and Microsoft? Well, guess what? You have an opportunity to do that. And so for this, okay, just to be clear, this trade earning workshop on demand, if you're not if you need to take advantage of the holiday package and you're a regular member, it's not included. So for $47, it's a no-brainer, okay? The next opportunity, okay, is to upgrade to the trade earnings trade room experience. Okay, so these are going to be special workshop trade rooms outside of our pro trade room. It's going to be in GoToWebinar where Lee is going to not just show you the trade, but actually coach. Again, we can't coach you individually, but coach you through the process of setting up. And he's going to be taking these trades live with real money. And so you're going to be able, for 6 sessions, it's $199. Okay. So I think that's an excellent value. I just showed you one trade that made over $600. Okay, and we're going to show for 6 trades, you're going to have a VIP ticket for all 6 of these sessions. Okay, so basically all in, if you take advantage of the trade earnings workshop and then you bump, and I'll show you how you could do that to get entry and upgrade to our 6 live earning trade rooms, it's $47 plus $199. It's just $246. Okay, so www.tradeearningsnow.com. And listen, for our members out there, guess what? Okay, if you're a pro trade room member, the 6 live trade rooms, that's included with your pro trade room membership. Okay, this is something different. The earnings is something that Lee brought to the table, and so we want all of our current trade room members to know that we're not, you're going to be taken care of for Q1. There might be some adjustments for Q2. We haven't made any hard decisions. Okay, so if you're a pro trade room member, you're still going to get invitations to the 6 live trade rooms. However, you're not going to get the class if you didn't take advantage of that holiday special for $47. I know it could be a little bit confusing, but the bottom line is that if you're not a trade room member, you definitely want to take advantage of this trade earnings workshop with the 6 live trade rooms, okay? I'm very excited. It's going to end this Wednesday, the 19th at midnight, okay? Because I need to have an opportunity to share with you the registration link on Thursday. I guess I could run it a little bit. No, I need it to be done there, so I have time to send out emails on Thursday. So you only have like 48 hours, really, right? So today, tomorrow, okay, maybe a little bit more than that. So yeah, I'm gonna open up the door for Q&A. Oh, Lee, I got to give Lee a break. Usually Lee's the one doing the whole shebang, but listen, we're keeping it real. It's a real and amazing opportunity. Let me show you what I mean in terms of going to the website, okay? So www.tradeearningsnow.com. And here's the order form, okay? So you see I have 2 days and 14 hours. So the first thing is for $47, that's the on-demand 90-minute course that Lee did live that people, $499, it's only $47. When you fill out all the information here and you go to step 2, you'll have the opportunity to bump and upgrade for another $199. Excuse me, for the 6 earning trade rooms, which really makes this a really learning workshop session, right? You're not just consuming, you actually come into the trade room and you're able to practice along with us on sim. So, it's a brand new year. Hang on a second here. Yeah, so I think, oops. Yeah, so basically, yeah, I've tested this. I know that it works. So it'll be you'll see here, total will be $246, okay? And last but not least, before I flip it back, comes with a 6-month guarantee. And basically how that guarantee works is that 6-month action guarantee, as long as you watch our workshop, you take at least 4 earnings per quarter on sim, and you show us proof of that. If you're not happy for any reason at the end of 6 months, we'll give you a full refund, okay? So let me go back to here. Hang on one second. Okay, slideshow. Okay, Lee, tell me, how am I doing on the tech front? Am I a little sloppy or I'm getting better?
No, you're doing great. Can you
Okay.
hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. No, everything's good.
Okay, so guys, I know it's like 2 minutes till the hour. I mean, I don't want to cut off anything, but I'm here. Lee's here. I'll open the door for like 1 or 2 questions, and then I think we're gonna wrap it up. Okay. So Timothy is asking, can the software be used for Forex? Do you want to take that question, Lee?
Yes. So Timothy, Ninjatrader supports Forex. Our software essentially supports any index that is coming through with data from Ninjatrader. It's just we have not tested and used it on Forex very much. So you would have to understand, how to put the symbols in and what the quantities of contracts would be. You'd be somewhat on your own when it comes to Forex, but there's no reason why it can't work with Forex or stock prices and futures. But ultimately, our main focus is futures. But I've looked at it with Forex. The data's there and it works. But you'd have to make your own setups. We don't trade Forex, so it would be different, but it would work definitely.
Okay. Somebody's asking what time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you give me more context, T. And forgive me, I know that there's a lot of questions. So if I missed a question, go ahead and retype it in. But in terms of timing, here's the deal. This opportunity, the Trade Earnings Now, it ends Wednesday at midnight. The first session, as I'll show you here in 1 second. Let me show. I think it's probably this. So our first, the 6 VIP trade room experience that you're going to get is on Thursday at 3:30 p.m. And then you can see we have one on the 25th, one on the 26th, the 27th. So it's really this week, next week, and then the following week as well, in February as well. And remember, earnings are quarterly, right? So that's what makes it so special. This is an opportunity that only comes up once per quarter, okay? All right, well, I don't see any other questions coming in. Lee, any last words before I wrap it up?
For me, I just got into this because I thought it was a lot of fun and interesting, and I love our software, and I love finding new ways to use it. And using this particular setup is a discretionary setup, as someone on YouTube said. So for me, it's a way to learn the software. If you like, say, trading a 9:30 to 10 o'clock breakout, you could use this exact setup, change it very slightly. You could trade market opens and closes. So you're not really just learning how to do earnings, but you're learning how to take a setup that you can apply to other market moments. And that's where you get more value. And that to me is what makes it all so interesting, is you could take a setup that works on earnings and apply it to something else. So that's what I find interesting about the whole thing.
That's awesome. Well, I know we also have Chantal behind the scenes, and I want to be respectful of, there's so many things I want to share with you to close off. I'll just say this. This whole ordeal I've been starting to do these beta podcasts, and, for today's session, this whole weekend I've been actually working on getting this opportunity ready for everyone. I wanted to make sure that we left nobody behind. Okay, and that's what I was working on Sunday, to make sure that we put together a package that would really be fair and add a lot of value. And so, I'm really happy to be here with you. It's one thing to just give you a 90-minute course. It's another thing to say, hey, look, I'm also going to show you these trades, the same trades that I've been, showing you how they work. It means that we have a lot of confidence behind their system, right? Because Lee's going to be, for those of you who invest in this, we're going to be trading live. We're going to be risking. We're going to be, we're there with you, right? And so I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is that we're there, total transparency, and we're going to not only, show and sim like, we did, and also show you like, great trades that we made in the past, but we're going to be up there making these live trades along with you, okay? So, just to make it clear, once you invest for the $47, you'll have access to the on-demand workshop forever, okay? And then, of course, the 6 sessions, you know what? I didn't add that in there. I will mention that not only, let's say you can't make it to one of those 6 trade rooms, we'll send you to the recordings of those as well, okay? So let's say should I invest in this? I only can make it to 4 of the 6. Don't worry, because there's a lot of value, and this is why it's a workshop, in actually seeing the recordings, and so that you, for Q2 and Q3 and Q4 of this year, you'll be able to have that as well. So really, it's the 90-minute workshop, plus you're also going to get at least 30, probably like 45-minute recordings of each of the live trade rooms. All right. So this is Eric Roth. Let me see. Actually, let me do a goodbye with. Let's see if I could do this. Let's see here. Hang on, guys. Yep, here I go. All right, well, guys, this is Eric Spiker. Used to be my, still is my Facebook nickname. This is Eric Roth. I want to thank everyone on Facebook, on YouTube, GoToWebinar. Thank you so much. I'm going to continue doing these podcasts. I'm going to try to do them once a week. Lee, thank you for being such a great co-moderator today. And have a fantastic week. And I really hope you guys take advantage of this workshop. I would like to see you alongside. I'm a student too. This is for me too. I'm going to be doing the workshop myself, and I'm going to be doing my best to get myself ready to be able to trade Netflix. All right, guys, this is Eric. Have a fantastic week. And I think we have our first trade room tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow for all of our trade room members. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.